Hello, happy Thursday. It's a date night and we are together once again for a beautiful Thursday. I'm so disappointed. So I'm not in my usual spot. We have got strong connection immediately when Usipu Quetta, my beautiful designer that is joining us this evening. We're about to go live. We're on time. And then, boom, like load shedding, it just went dark, like connection. Imagine, I'm so sorry for us starting a bit later than planned this evening, but we are truly happy and grateful that you are joining us for our date night, where we speak to thriving young professionals, entrepreneurs, graduates, young people that want to succeed and help others succeed. And of course, it's all about you. So, one of the requests that we had was to share about personal branding for creatives, for young people in the creative space, and to get us elevating our brands, because we work on everybody else. As creatives, you want everything else to be so great and beautiful and awesome, and we are outsourced to do all these great things, but we actually, let me not make it a fact. We're going to talk about some of those things that we do very quickly. But I just wanted to take that moment to welcome you wherever you are in the world. Good morning, good day, good night, good evening. I hope you had a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful week. As you can see, I am not alone. Sipu, please introduce yourself to our beautiful people.
All right, thank you, Sukhinda. Good evening, everyone. Good evening to the creative community as a whole. It's lovely to be here. It's an honor. Yeah, I just wanted to be as ready and prepared as possible because I'm just like my peers and mentors are here and saying, like, hey, everything was just the standard is very 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 high. If they normally say the stakes are high, so yeah. But thank you for having me.
It's so great that you've made the time. And yes, your peers are here. We've shared the fact that we're having this conversation. And anyway, it is a request, right? So we know that there's people who are serious about their brands that are joining us. So would you like to just get into, like, where do you come from? How did you manage to be this person that we are sitting here with today? So you're a graphic designer, photographer. You've worked for some time, I think now, and you've got so much experience. But at the core, who is Sipu?
All right. Do I get straight away? So, guys, I don't want this to be just a disclaimer. This is not a lecture. It's not a pitch or anything. But I just thought whenever you're speaking to creatives, you must have visuals with them, or else you just lose them. So, to tell my story or to tell who I am and where I come from, I just thought I should rather just put this together. So I am born Sifu Koloro, but I use Sifu originally from the Western Cape, George. I moved to the Val. I moved to Vanderbilt Park to complete my degree in graphic design. That was like many years ago. You can say my age. And so I got my bachelor's degree in graphic design, and we kind of like the course was very much broad, so we touched on illustration, photography, communication design, of which branding design kind of like falls under that. And a bit, just so that you all can relate to me, these are a bit of, I hope everyone can see the visuals. So um, I'm very much bonded with my mother. I don't want to use the phrase, I'm a mama's boy. Yes, I don't tell them. Um, and so I very much loved academics. So that was like in high school. And in my personal space, I'm normally on the road. I love traveling a lot. As I mentioned, I'm from the Western Cape, so I'm from like a coastal secondary town or secondary city. And so whenever I'm back at home, I make sure Mutsinje, I make a turn at like either or the beach or the waterfront in Neisner. And so what kind of like inspires me or influences my work, I kind of like put this together. I once stumbled upon a publication called the Design Times. I loved how they approached illustration and just the experimental nature of approaching design. I still somewhere apparently have the Geïllustreerde Encyclopedia where there's like a lot of illustrations in it, hand rendered stuff. And then I'm sure for those who were at Valtech, they know the fourth book on the top, which is the Next History of Graphic Design, that kind of influenced my approach to graphic design. And then our very own Garth Walker, who is responsible for the E-Juicy publication, which kind of like uses a lot of collage work. That's what I that's what I kind of like started incorporating in my work. I was exposed to his work since in high school. Well, I went to George Secondary, which we had design as a subject, so it was a focus. It was a focus school for the arts. And then Steven Segmeister as well. I just love how he can create provocative work that also kind of like more or less influences my work. And then I'll be taking you guys through my portfolio. Oh, before we get there, the brands that I've worked for or the companies, I started as a graphic design student mentor at Valtech. And then and then became an intern, a Sunday Times lifestyle, and then became a junior designer. When I was there, I worked on a collaboration piece where Sunday Times and Jägermeister was having a campaign, and then Sunday Times and Mr. Press also kind of like had one. Later on, I moved to the advertising industry for Toyota, of which under Toyota you have the Kinto brand and then you have the Hilo brand. For the fun stuff for people that like visual things. Um, these are some of the pieces that I've done. This being a cover for the lifestyle throughout COVID. I'm a freelance photographer. I specialize in portrait photography. It is very different from fashion photography, so let's get that one clear. And then as an illustrator or collage artist, like I worked on this proactive piece where I was kind of like putting something that's more narrative together. I will kind of explain that later. And then this was a piece I'd worked on while I was at the Times. They wanted like some ad. And then from all of the stuff that I've worked on at Toyota, this Land Cruiser Prado campaign, what I do there is I'm a brochure designer. It was a breakaway from what I've normally been used to as a designer, where before I worked for a newspaper, which was kind of like the section in the paper, it does have feminine sentiments, whereas now I had to kind of like shake that skin off as I'm working for a car brand, and it needs kind of like, it needs to appeal to what we can safely say a most male dominated kind of like audience. And then everything here is very much sentimental. Well, fortunately for me, throughout the time of COVID, I got to kind of like work on magazine covers for SMAG at the time because I couldn't do shoots. So the Natasha Tahani one, I did the composite, the cover, the typesetting was done by one Elise Dabata, who at the time was working there. And the piece over here where there is like a lady, I might later on explain on that. And then for the late legendary one, Konnichiwa, I did that artwork over there. So yeah, and then there's like the six survey piece, which kind of challenged me back at the time to think more conceptually on work that I do. So at times you are in a space where you have to kind of like illustrate something, but you have to be very conceptual and metaphoric whenever you're thinking of it. I will kind of like get into that later. But what I learned from it is like, how do you as a designer bring something forward with kind of like a very tactful way of doing it? Um, what is next? And then, yeah, I think, Linda, can I then do I continue or do I pause right here before we get into the gist of things?
It's like you were getting into it deeper and deeper. So I was like, wasn't sure whether to jump in and be like, "Hi, everyone who's joining us has to be questions and all." But I mean, this is amazing. This is beautiful, and I think what you've already showed us is how you've packaged, showing us what you actually do, and it's
Yeah.
important. That's why we're having this conversation. But I just wanted you to spend some time telling us why you think it's important for creatives to actually build a personal brand. Like, why is it so critical, especially now, with the journey that you've had?
So to kind of, I had to be very cautious about how I answer that one because I'm like, hey,
Okay.
the audience is very much knowledgeable and cognizant of things. So there's like a definition on the slide, which basically personal branding is like conscious crafting of one's public identity, and it includes their image, their story, and their position. But to kind of like, in my own words, personal branding to me,
Mm.
I repeat, to me, personal branding to me is the story that influences my approach in creative, what relates and resonates with me, and how I, in my skill set, get to interpret that, right? And then the importance thereof, it kind of like helps you to define your niche, and it also kind of like makes it easier to resonate to clients or brands. If I can go on, not so very long time ago, I was in a series of interviews, right? And in these interviews, I mentioned that when I, as a creative, or whenever the employer is looking for a graphic designer, they want you to come on board with your skill set, and with your ability to interpret a brief, but kind of you merge that, or that becomes a marriage between the brand and your identity. And if you're being honest, it does sound very nice in an interview where they're like, okay, we want you on board. But in practicality, it's like 70% of the brand's identity and 30% of your interpretation.
And looking at that, right? I see you've paused, and I just want to come in and say, uh,
Yeah.
when you are looking at someone who is still finding themselves and wanting to stand out, what are the first few things that you actually look for in someone who is trying to stand out?
Okay, I think
You
Linda might be.
tell them because
You are cutting on your side, ne? Linda?
I'm still here. Hi.
Okay, there was like
Did
a
you
cut
catch
on
that?
our side. I
Yes,
didn't
there was a
catch quite a
cut.
part
Sorry
of it.
about that.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try to answer. Are we still on?
Yes, we're still on.
All
Go for
right.
it.
What I can say on that, right? So I'll take it a bit back to in first year at Valtech, we had a lecturer called Rishma. So Rishma at the time and most of the briefs that we had subliminally dealt with the concept of identity, right? Before we
Yeah.
get into the hectic part of the theory of art and the theory of graphic design. So some of the briefs dealt with identity, whether at that time you could see it as a first year or not. So you always kind of like, as a creative, we are kind of like slightly drawn into the space of getting to understand who you are. And also we have the fortunate in South Africa or as people of color to kind of
Yeah.
like delve very into who we are in terms of our ethnicity, in terms of our culture, and in terms of our heritage. All of those things are kind of different. And then that's also kind of like informed by the aesthetics around us and how we bring that across. So for a designer who's kind of like wanting to find their own style, I think it's always best to kind of like find what is it that you resonate with. I will kind of, if I can, um, just that I know, but I don't want to be too fast. If I kind of like can describe maybe how I approach my work. My work
Yes,
always kind
yes.
of like has an idea of symbolism or metaphorism, and it's like it's those multi-layered components that I personally bring in, and that comes most likely from I come from George, which is like a Victorian town, but in the same town there is Abatos, and they are African speaking people. So for me, the idea of merging a whole lot of things all at once to make one story stems from something that I resonate with. It's being in environments where there's like multiple cultures of melting pot. So that's kind of like how I approach it. I hope I'm answering that in a way that can be graspable for an up-and-coming designer, but also like find out what is it that you like to do. Are you an illustrator? Are you a drawer? Are you a graphic designer? Whatever resonates with you. I don't want to sound very, I don't want Oprah, but like find that thing that makes your style stand out. Because at the end of the day, if you're being honest now, the creative industry is extremely competitive, and for your portfolio to stand out, they're looking for, as we're still talking about the idea of personal branding, they're looking for what makes you stand out. What is the story? What informs your design? What informs your creative? Maybe if I've only seen this a lot at university where they like kunama gents that have that street style, right? That part of your personality needs to translate into your design. And whether that's through, if now I'm being very technical here, if that is through your color usage and how you maybe use typography and maybe just your experimental approach to layout design, that part of you needs to pull through. Now, me on the other end, I like multi-layered things, I like putting things together, and I want that to come through if it's in illustration. When we come into design, I'm a bit more stricter, whereas I'm just like, I like very sleek designs. For instance, I mostly reference like a Woolworths layout or something that's clean. Yeah, that's me.
So I want us to stick to that, right? You've mentioned, taking through self into concept, into meeting brand, and you definitely answered my question quite well. How I'm coming in from varsity, from design school, and I need to a Linda who needs to make a decision on whether to hire a Sbongile. What is it that, as a designer, I need to do? What are the critical things I need to do?
Yo, yes, this is Linda. Now, this is the thing, right? Firstly, in your 3 or 4 years in varsity, the psychology when things are starting, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think
Yeah.
what I was told is archive your work, number one, which it means that your work is saved on a hard drive, your work is saved on a DVD disc, your work is saved on a cloud. Let's start there, right? And also be cognizant. I know what I'm just going back a bit now. Be cognizant that at the end of the day, you are going to be an employee, you are going to be an employee if that's the case, or you're going to be self-employed if that's also the case. Kind of like be cognizant of the fact that you identify what your style is and your strengths as a designer, or let me rather say as a creator, so that you can stand out. Now, please do make sure that your portfolio is as competitive as can be, because what does happen is that, for instance, if you're from a Baltic and you are looking for work in the Gauteng space or in the advertising space, there are certain institutions that get preference, if I do say so. I'm not sure if I can mention them or not because they might be my potential employers in some time, one day. But you are competing with the private institutions where some students, just by virtue of being there, they get first preference. Now, what I told myself at the time, if I'll take, is that so you all can say that Isuka, if I'll take, and I'm not from a UJ or a triple A or a Vega, but you will open my portfolio and you will shortlist me. So that needs to be at the back of mind that that portfolio needs to be competitive, and also bear in mind that the private institutions kind of like specialize more into things, whereas at a public institution you kind of like deal with a broader thing. So what I would say to a graduate is have your portfolio ready, have it backed up, and also please do have a CV, not the 3-page CV. Like do a cute resume, and yeah, I think so. I think that's what
So,
might be needed. Yeah,
so before you close, I don't want to close it. You let's stick to the portfolio, right? Before we even go to the
yeah.
CV, what makes a good portfolio? What makes it great? What makes it stand out?
Um, Great portfolio according to me, and it differs.
Yes,
Great
yes, yes.
portfolio to me is a variety in skills. If because like now, if for instance you are from an institution where the curriculum was mostly print based, I am going to want to look at illustration, whether it's hand rendered or digital. Now I'm going to step on some people's toes and some institutions that most likely, because this is whatever I'm going to mention now isn't the lecturer's problem. It's not it's the designer's thing, where from throughout the time that you are in the institution, familiarize yourself with how to render stuff, to do digital stuff, right? If it's illustration, please know and kind of like refine your skill or technique in whatever software that you're comfortable with. Illustration doesn't mean you have to do it in Adobe Illustrator. There's Fresco, there's Photoshop, and all kinds of other platforms that you use, right? So have work that is hand rendered, because if you are madly in love about illustration, for instance, you can kind of like get a job as a book illustrator, which there still is a market for it. And then anything that's digital is more like for spaces where whatever application is needed to be very much done in a very short space of time. Um, and then visual communication design. So also another thing is familiarize yourself with how to use typography slash fonts in design. It's like it's one of those things where if there's a disconnect in your font usage and your design, it just is one of those things that puts one off. Also, it's not necessarily everyone's strong point, but I will always kind of like say have a look at publications, be obsessed with print, because I know at this point in time, Mungumpi is like, ah, it's digital now, and whatever we're doing is digital. But in some cases, we might want to see that wide range of skill set. And then, shame, you guys, we're in such a challenging time where UX has become very important. And so it's like the variety of stuff, and also kind of like balancing out those skill sets. Maybe some of the stuff you might not be as strong in, but have a few things where if someone goes through your portfolio, they're like, yep, let's call this guy in, let's have a chat. Yeah.
So why I wanted you to emphasize some of that and go back and just speak portfolio, it's quite a big selling point for how you then showcase your personal
Yeah.
brand, right? Because it's
All
way
right.
now it's yeah, that's your what you call it. I don't want to use that word, but I'm gonna have to use it now. The canvas that we look at
Yeah.
when we make decisions about who to bring on board for projects based on what you've put together. So, what are the mistakes
Um, sure. Are you still online? Because there's like a freeze on the side. Linda.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
So the common
Um,
mistake that you've seen or you've also made that you've learned from that probably have costed you opportunities because you have not, built the portfolio to what it's supposed to be that we can share.
um, I would rather say like a great mistake in terms of portfolio. What I have done is wasn't necessarily a mistake, but something that I was affected by was not archiving work, and that happened because I mostly had my work saved in a on a hard disk, and unfortunately, I got into a signal jamming where the guys came and they took my entire backpack and the MacBook and everything was gone just like that. So some of the work was not backed up, but I had some stuff on another platform that I'm using. So the mistake that sure the mistake that happens to most of us that I do know is just the archiving process and also just like refining work. I think, oh, another one that came to bite me a lot was I'm on a platform called Behance, right? So my Behance portfolio and my PDF portfolio, I just felt like, you know what, I don't feel like doing my write ups. I feel like writing what the story was behind the project. And it's a beautiful piece of work. Just appreciate the
Just
work
what?
for it.
Just look at it.
Hey, okay, just look at it and be like, this is nice.
Ah,
Now,
life doesn't work like that.
you know, and then up until a lot of art directors were like to me, but we want you to do a write up, explain to us what was the thinking here. And I'm like, hey, hey, it's beautiful, you know. So doing if you have the portfolio ready, just like have write ups as to what the thinking was behind that. Um, yeah, and then a common mistake that I also do see is that when I view a portfolio, just in how it's packaged, there should just also be a nice flow to it. Not because you were taught that like when you package a portfolio, there is like section dividers. Don't just do that, but like let there be a flow. I do get that like at varsity level, there isn't much. If you are a designer, there isn't much skills given to layout design, but like just make things flow. I'm sure it's been very evident when I was putting this together. There's like a consistent theme in terms of color. I am biting my teeth because I don't want someone to say that, oh, you used all of the pieces where there's like yellows in it. But I was just like, it ties in together. Right? So, so yeah, just those things.
It must be aligned.
Yeah. It must.
Ah, no, it is a beautiful piece of work that you showcased. I'm not sure if you saw Trevor also saying amazing work, Yolanda also saying inspiring work, Kevin, also Mandisa chipping in there as well to just let us know that they're appreciating your work. So if you want to get to a point, right, as a young creative where you are able to pitch and build that confidence and be like be able to stand and speak to a Linda on a live platform. What are some of those things that you've had to do for yourself, to develop, to build that this brand that is Osipu right now, that you can share with everyone? What is it that
I'm
you've
actually,
done to get to this point?
I'm actually laughing a bit because how there's like, as I said, my peers are here, and with my peers I mean um friends and loved ones I've been like in class with since first year. So just on that talk, ungalibali, I still have another slide
Yeah.
that I still need to take them through the photography work. So just a pause on that. Okay, back to the fact that my peers
Yes,
are here.
yes,
So
yes.
I think I see she's online. Sheila is here. Yolanda is here.
Yeah, so when my first year, I think Sheila can still remember, I was the scrawny guy at the back of the class. I didn't want to say anything, didn't want to talk, didn't want like I was just in my own zone. Also, like it was a culture shock to
Yeah.
me because I'm from the Western Cape and I'm not very much used to everyone. Um, but no, this is the trick, right? And it's gonna sound very psycho, but I have to say it. So in a space, let's remember that like in the education space, or what I discovered, how we get marks allocated to us is that the lecturers are only nice if there are two people that share one mark. Only one person can get the top score, right? So what I did at the time, or throughout my varsity, is like I sat at the back, I observed, because like I observed things, and this is like a skill that I kind of like learned as I grew up, and also like because schooling the kids would be very mean to me. So I'm just like I observe which one is the smartest and how can I like beat them, not in a weird manner. So in class, what I did is like I observed who's, for instance, what's that one's strong point, what's this one's strong point. For instance, I knew that Sheila and Spi were very much strong in drawing. Um, I knew that a gentleman called Tsepo Maosho was great in illustration. Um, who else? I hope I'm not forgetting anyone. Like, there's a lot, guys. If I don't mention your name, I haven't forgotten, but there was like a lot happening. But I kind of had to sit and understand that, okay, this is what they're great at. And then I saw, okay, they are
Yes, yes,
struggling, they're struggling to combine illustration and typography. They're struggling to, not they, some of them, and that's their strongest point. So I was like, okay, Zaubabonis, sharpen my skill in that. Then I also realized that when we get the photography briefs, that some of them are kind of like they do minimal. So the parts where some of my peers at the time kind of like were lacking, those were the parts where I was like, okay, net for diving, I am going to sharpen my skill there. Yeah, well, I forgot what the question was. Sorry, got too carried away there. Oh, it was about how to increase your confidence, and then
your
yeah,
skills, like what did you
yeah,
do
how
to develop yourself to this point?
so at some point in time as a creative, you will have to pitch or sell an idea. And let me just be honest, if there's money involved, you have to do your best. Okay? Because that's what makes the world goes around. So I think like being knowledgeable on what you do, and kind of like make like let us see your passion. If you're saying that you're a passionate designer, at least be able to take us through your concept and have confidence to kind of like explain that. Also, the idea or the concept of a rationale or the write-ups, as I've mentioned, kind of like helps so that in cases where you're struggling to vocalize yourself, you can kind of like say that also not all of us are kind of like ambiverts or extroverts. So just understanding that um, the client or whomever in an interview or wherever you are, they will need to hear you speak about what it is that you do. And also, another thing that kind of like helped, and at the time, if now we're speaking to students particularly or graduates, at the time I had a motto in varsity because I did something I was not supposed to do, but I can say it now. I was working part-time ngama weekends, and I felt that there were times where I couldn't give my projects all the best I could, but I was like, I want the project to say what I could not say. If I got sick, at least when you see that project being submitted, it must be like, mara uzamile or uphushize, yabo? It should be something like that. So your work also should speak on the things that you cannot speak about. Because at times I've been in instances where the only thing I can send through is a portfolio, but the skill set, if I don't have a write up, the skill set should be enough to pull the hiring manager or the art director to just be like, "Hi, let's respond to his email." Yeah, but so let the work speak volumes. If maybe you're not as strong in terms of kind of like vocalizing yourself verbally or setting the idea, let the portfolio talk. Yeah.
So I know you want to jump to your other
Mm-hmm.
slide, but I wanted to bring in the whole concept of us getting hung, strangled, taken over by technology, and just creatives who have joined the call and who are looking for opportunities. We are competing with, software and systems that are quite fast. They can do things that we were taught to do in graduate school that now happen so much quicker. How is the space, what's happening in the space that one can leverage and still stand out, considering all these changes that we are going through? Because there's always an opportunity, right, that one
Yeah.
can see, or we can actually hear from those that have joined, like how are you using AI, how are you using all of these instruments that are now available to us to help you as a young creative?
So I guess if I can summarize that question, it's most likely what you're asking is what are the disadvantages and the advantages of the AI currently in the creative space, or according to what I understand. So things are very much fantastic and beautiful because I use AI. If I have it correctly, there's Adobe Firefly, so that helps a bit when I'm trying to conceptualize something. It helps
Yeah,
for the conceptual part, and then that would be mostly in either illustration or collages. In photography, I use AI in Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop when I need, there's like a feature called generative fill, or you can kind of like just have prompts and things, and it helps you whenever you need to clean up a picture and all of that. So that's great, right? It
yeah.
simplifies the workflow, it makes things very much easier, especially also if you like a retoucher and that's your kind of thing. Now that's great. But now here comes the challenge where they're creatives that feel like um, AI is kind of like threatening the space. So there's like two ways about it, because when you kind of like write prompts, we never know where the prompt kind of like samples our work from. And if you had seen, if whether people are using platforms like Mid Journey and whatever, so those platforms, those platforms kind of like I'm just
I think you might have switched it off. You might have switched off. I can't hear you now. Just try it again. No, I still can't.
no, I have to.
I think you mistakenly disconnected. Yeah, there you go. I'm
Can you
hearing
hear me
some
now?
audio now coming through.
Let me just disconnect that.
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
I think
Tabanga,
you
and now I have to
mistakenly
go
just
from
switched it off.
yeah, and now I have to switch from fancy
Yeah,
headsets to yeah. So the as I was saying, like all of these other platforms, they generate stuff, but it isn't high resolution enough for if you're doing print, it isn't high res enough for print, right? But also now, here's the chance that some creatives aren't really looking at. For an example, I'm just going to take you to angazi ukuthi if I can zoom in here. But if you're looking at the Trevor Noah piece on the right, it's on the right on my side, right? When you're writing a prompt, for instance, and you have a distinctive style, right? The prompt isn't going to give you detailed stuff. The prompt might not maybe understand stipplism or triangulation or an engraving effect. So in that, I would kind of like to encourage the designers to refine your technique. Refine your technique. If it's an analog technique, if you do if you do watercolor or gouache illustrations or whatever that may be, make sure that whatever your style is, that when a person looks at it, we can identify that that is your style, and it also kind of like helps you, and it might help you also in like law related kind of setups where maybe a part of your work is sampled and you're just like, but that chunk is part of my work. That's not AI. So if you kind of like refine techniques that are very much unique to you, or whatever it is that you're doing, just make sure ukuthi nje i-technique yakho it stands out from whatever another person is doing. And I guess in this instance I mean techniques that kind of like have a very analog feeling. With analog I mean hand rendered kind of feeling, so you can incorporate those kind of things. Those are things that AI is it I don't think can do. And also, not sure if anyone has printed anything that AI has done on like a large scale. I'm saying I'm not sure. I haven't come across it, because like whenever you generate something, it's normally like low res. But also what you can do, you can always kind of like use AI in your kind of work, and you just adjust it according to your style. So it's like it's a bittersweet kind of thing in the space where we're in. And then I think you touched on the idea of fourth industrial revolution. I know I've talked about a lot about illustration. So when you're looking for a career within the graphic design space, what I would rather advise you is the UX space, UX and web design. As another people, they are chowing, they are living. So rather be versatile to a point where if there is an opening for a UX designer, have that skill set. Because also now, Shem, as much as we fought the battle, I remember a friend of mine, Ketumetsa, used to say, he used to say, hi, magazines and newspapers are dying. We were still in varsity back then. Well, unfortunately, that's happening. I worked in the print industry, and like publication numbers have dropped. So for some people, UX might be a thing, web design might be a thing, and Shem, you will not regret that type of decision. To kind of like, so we are moving to digital stuff. So have a look at what careers in the digital space of graphic design can kind of like afford you, as opposed to, well, I know I've chose print related stuff, but that's my advice to another person.
Yes, yes, yes. Based off your experience and how you see things, that's why you are here. So anyone else that wants to contribute and add on must come and let us know from their perspective, because it's important that we share how we are seeing things around us, how we seeing the world. So I mean, take us through your research on, I don't think it was, you said
Sorry,
was it the typography?
no, no, on the slide there's photography. If I'm not, because we're
Which
slightly
one was it
cutting.
again? Typography, or there's something that you said you wanted to go into on the slide?
Oh, it's
Photography.
photography. Yeah. Well, because it's also written on our talk today.
Okay, go for it.
So,
Go for it.
um, I think a huge deal of what I resonate with under the umbrella of personal branding is my photography. Um, I've gotten in trouble for my style, and I'm not sure if it's good or bad kind of trouble, because kind of like my photography is signified by very dramatic lighting and a photo documentary style, and it's portraiture. I always have, as we can all see in the pictures, my subjects are always like dead center of the frame. And it's very much understated, even though at times I can kind of like look at lux oriented kind of photography. I kind of like, I have this thing where I'm drawn, if I'm kind of like working, or if it's a passion project in terms of photography, I'm drawn to people's characters and their personality, and how we can kind of like push them in front of the lens way and just be like, okay, let's see a different side to who you are. I'm very much drawn to people's facial features, and the reason why I'm laughing at that, I don't want to use the word vain, because a friend of mine was like, "Oof, very vain," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I cannot say that." And also, what influenced me is, I think we have beautiful people in our country, guys. I am aware that we're very much informed by Western aesthetics and magazines or publications as to what beauty is. In as much as I've shot males, a lot of males in my work, I won't delve very much into my personal life and how that influences it. So, in as much as I've shot a lot of males, I've realized that the concept of what informs beauty is mostly what people have seen out there. And we haven't looked at our beauty as African people. We have different facial features from people from the West. And we have, I must say, and I'm not saying this in a condescending manner to any other ethnicity, tribe, or whoever comes from whatever background, we have beautiful features as well. And at times it's up to the photographer to kind of bring that out in a person, whether if it's like through lighting, whether if that's through color grading. And most of my work kind of I use color to pull the person in. And the last sentence there on the slide says people's eyes are the windows to their souls, and people have beautiful eyes. We have beautiful people. But now what I've experienced is minage in first year I was hoping I can be a model, but unfortunately, I mean, I gain weight and I eat quite a lot. So what happened is I then used other people to like live out my dreams, and that's how it started. And so I had
Yeah.
the things I the things I would like, the way I would like to be shot. That's how I shoot other people. I know Guti, different people have got different best sides, or whenever you're framing them, this is the best side to kind of like shoot that person. And also, personally, I would not sell something that I do not like. So that means if a picture is taken of me and it is not retouched, it is not edited, it looks like a raw picture, it does not make its way to social media. That's been like that through since varsity. And it's the same way as when I'm working with someone, I shoot the picture, color grade it, retouch it. I want you to look at that picture and see yourself in a different light. Because that's also how I want to feel when a person takes a picture of me. And the best is neck, guys, not just be like, it was just shot and then bam, it's posted. So and also themes that I resonate with, I bring that through to my work. With the males, it's always kind of, it's a theme that either how do we bring the concept of maleness or post maleness in this era that we're in? How do we view body positivity? How do we look at queerness in photography without dabbling on sensitive topics such as either hypersexualization or just putting out work there that can make someone look at life in a different way? Yeah. So,
I'm so inspired to see more of your work, and I hope everyone that has joined is also super, super inspired to get to learn. I've also been picking up with dealing with creatives is very much the packaging, putting everything together to give to the world. And I like how you've taken us through the journey, and simplified quite a bit. So help us now as we move towards wrapping up, like just share with us some of the successes that you've seen, just from the personal branding strides that you've had, any that you can highlight so that you know our audience can actually walk away with some inspiration today from you.
um, can I answer that in the way of saying, like, what are the people that I've seen kind of use the concept of personal branding successfully, in my
Yes,
opinion? Can I do it like that? Okay, cool. Ooh.
of course.
True. So, whom I've seen, and it's like, so basically, a brand always lives hand in hand with a lifestyle, if we're looking at it in that way. I'll make an example of where I'm working. So I work for Toyota Studio One, and what we do is sell cars, right? But each car has a different subculture or grouping to it. Um, when we talk about a Hilux, you think of a particular group of people at a particular time. If I'm talking about a Hilux, you know what a Hilux driver most likely looks like and what they wear. If I talk about a Fortuner, you know that you're thinking about Saturday afternoon at the rugby fields, cheering on the kids. I don't need to go into the specifics, but now it comes to mind that brand has a lifestyle. Um, in my personal capacity, people that I've seen use that quite well. In my personal capacity, and I'm going to talk about create like either a designer or illustrator, and maybe a few photographers. We all do know Trevor Stearman, how he's kind of like pulled together photography and merged it with African aesthetics, right? One Dala Photos also kind of like done that greatly. And then I'll bring it closer to home. I've seen the amazing work of a gentleman called Tsepo Mbokazi. And the main reason why I'm saying that is he's pulled through his personality of being into hip hop and that very much contemporary vibe, and how that pulls through in his album art designs that I see. Um, it's been consistent. That's why it kind of like strike me. It's I've seen it years ago, and I kind of like always see how he also has a very experimental approach to design, and so it kind of like it has become very consistent. And then the second one, it would have to be Mpho Musola, a close friend of mine, or a friend of mine that at times we don't necessarily see eye to eye in terms of design. But what I like is the consistency in his approach to to illustrations, and how he brands events. Um, and music related scenes in his style of illustration, and kind of like is consistent. So whenever I see something and I see him posting it, I'm like, it makes sense. He's done it before. It's a consistent thread. Um, that's another person I can mention. I have to jot these down because I don't want to forget. Tabiso Ngubeni, who is a logo designer or branding designer. I've seen him kind of like pull through an African aesthetic into branding design, which is a very difficult thing to do, in my opinion. How he kind of like merges African sentiments whenever he's designing a logo. So he's done that great, and it's been also consistent in his work. Romeo Malepo, he is on Facebook. He designed the SABC logo. He's also kind of like worked on his own freelance stuff. So he's, I think Malepo, if I'm not mistaken, that's a surname. And then Musonda, very popular. He's also kind of like done some big brand collaborations in his illustrations. So those are some of the people that like I've seen them kind of like be consistent, where their brand or what their product they put out kind of like is intertwined with their personality, and they're kind of like consistent in how that is packaged on social media, and they're consistent in also kind of like posting it and updating their online portfolio. So that's what to me stands out when we're talking about success stories in my art. Yeah.
So I wanted you to also just touch on how then creatives, right, that you know day can use their social media more effectively. I think is the best way
So
that
you
I can put it. How can creatives use their social media
sure. That's a
more
fun one.
effectively with all those that you've shared? Yeah, like to elevate the personal brands, because we spoke about the portfolio, we spoke about putting together
Mhm.
solid intel about your experience, growing into being this professional, right, creative professional.
Mhm.
So how can you use your social media to really tell us that this is you, you have arrived?
All right. I see some of the comments. Mandisa, thanks a lot for the feedback that you're giving. Thank you to Yolanda, and thank you to everyone, Sheila, and everyone that's just like in the comment section. I am seeing that. And also, I'm not skipping anyone whenever I'm discussing anything. I might have forgotten some names and just might have to condense information a bit. Just a side note. Okay, cool. So each platform has a particular reason, right? Oh, I forgot a new comma over here on this slide. So there's a platform that I recently joined. It's called Newcomer. It has a whole lot of creatives of color. I still am a bit broken that it has more fine arts people than designers, and but it's great. It's great for kind of like seeing what's being done out there. So that's a platform that creatives can definitely join. And also like there's like monthly prizes to be won, or like there's a monthly prize that the best profile or candidate wins. So that's great. So Behance, from first year up until whenever you get to industry, Behance has to be your friend as a creative, because there comes a time where if you're asked to submit a portfolio, or you're asked to submit stuff that you've done, you might not have the ability to send a PDF. So Behance just has to be your best friend. It's the best platform, and it's just very easy to use. So I think, or according to me, right? And then Behance is like, it's great for all kinds of content. And then there is my personal favorite platform. It's LinkedIn as well, because I feel like LinkedIn for LinkedIn has a whole lot of LinkedIn has recruiters, LinkedIn has creatives, and that's a community that gets to appreciate your work. And also it kind of like gauges in terms of, it makes you gauge that where do you need to sharpen your skill. I sometimes see stuff that's posted on LinkedIn, and then I'm just like, this could have been packaged differently. Because also on LinkedIn, if I saw an artwork once and there was something that could have been fixed, I'm not, when I see it again, I might kind of like, not maybe feel the same way about how I felt about it before. So LinkedIn is great also to kind of like, you connect with more creatives, you get more opportunities, and also kind of like you can see what's out there. So I would always recommend Behance and LinkedIn. Instagram, very much, and also LinkedIn is great for both design and photography work, right? Instagram, in my opinion, hasn't been very nice to me in terms of illustration related kind of work, because Instagram is more of like where you sell a lifestyle. So most of my photography rather is on my Instagram for me, because I feel like people photography kind of like translates better over there, and with the caption type of situation, right? I've also kind of like recently found that like TikTok is a very fun platform that I use to kind of like animate the shoots that I do, or the final pictures that I kind of like select, and also kind of like give the viewer glimpses into the behind the scenes. So TikTok is, in my opinion, also kind of like great if you can animate your photography, or if you can incorporate a videography element to it. I don't know about Twitter. I don't know how, yeah, because I've recently tried it, and maybe it's the algorithm, but like it hasn't been much to my favor. But like I just try and use social media platforms where the work can be appreciated. Instagram has been nice to me in terms of um, my photography could reach a broader audience. So that's been great about it. LinkedIn, I could kind of like be seen by recruiters, and that's how I got the work that I got currently. Someone saw me and they were like on my case for years on an end, and at times I just be like, I'm not ready to work with this brand. So people are watching you on LinkedIn, they watching the progression. So those are the social media platforms that I would vouch for.
Oh man, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. I love how calm you are as you are speaking about, some of the remarkable things that you do. If I was as talented as you, probably I would be this person who can't sit still, because you are so incredible.
You can't
Any
say.
parting thoughts as we wrap up? You see, I'm so good. I get you to smile and laugh. Hey, being serious doesn't suit you.
I mean, parting notes for me would, I'd firstly have to say thank you to Yolanda that like put us like in contact with each other.
Yeah.
Also thank you for this great platform. It's great for me as a creative, but also it's funny. It's made me kind of like open up to the idea of being appreciated as a creative. I think like as a graphic designer, you always kind of like in the workspace, you always most likely like the guy that's like the last point of contact, and the creative directors and art directors get the awards, and don't when you just like that overlooked individual.
That's so
But I'm grateful
true.
to people that when I posted about the live that we're having, they reached out and it was overwhelming for me. And I mean, also I never really anticipated that the journey is going to be this much blessed, and I thank God and the Madiba clan that it's been very great. So I'm
Yeah.
grateful for this, and I'm also grateful for my peers who are here, and also like it's a testament that guys, yes, they've provide us a Valtech, but like here we are, we stuck it out at a time where the curriculum that we had was very much challenging. So I think parting note is just like I'm grateful and thank you for also inspiring the creatives out there to do the best that they can. Yeah,
And
I think that's
we
it.
need more people to share, right, and help each other put together those
Yeah,
portfolios, get on LinkedIn, showcase your work. Every time you do something that is positive and shows your talent, there
yeah,
is definitely, like Usipo was saying, someone watching for those that are feeling stuck and like, yo, I'm still in this particular industry and I'm only getting to design this one part and I'm not getting the exposure and I'm not moving to, where I really was
yeah.
dreaming to be. Using these platforms, building your personal brand is one of the ways that will get you noticed and for you to get the opportunities that you seek the most. So
Yeah.
this is from us, Usipo and I, just wanting you to feel encouraged and to put yourselves out there. And hey, that brand that you are so keen to work with, that company that you want to work with, or your own company that you want to build, it is a possibility. You wanted to jump in there and say something? I saw
I
your
just
hand.
yeah, yeah, I forgot this, ne? So the guys and everyone, so there's this thing that you have to be cognizant of, and this is mostly targeted towards those that are still studying and maybe those that are still job hunting. So your portfolio can either get you into an internship when you're done, or it can either get you into a junior graphic designer, right? Now,
Yeah.
the difference between an internship and a junior becomes very clear in terms of a salary. It becomes
Mm.
very clear um, in terms of opportunities because what I've noticed is you can start at a company as an intern, right? And then comes another person who's maybe graduated a year after you. They jump and become the junior, right? So I remember mentioning the idea of a competitive portfolio. I think what would help best is, whilst we are still a varsity, craft it, make sure that it's good. It's a body of work that speaks volume about you, and that would be the first thing. The second thing would be to the guys who have graduated, they have the portfolios. Now, a portfolio is a constant piece of work. I've probably had more than 30 versions of a PDF portfolio because the work keeps on changing. And when I'm applying for a job, depending on whatever industry that is, I have to update the pieces in that portfolio to speak to whatever I am applying for. So you constantly update things in a portfolio, not because you got a 70 or a 65 in varsity for a communication design project, does it mean that 5 years later it's still as strong? It might mean that tweak it up, just adjust a few things here and there, make it like it's a constant piece of work. And again, remember, you can either be the intern or the junior. It's up to you and how you polish your portfolio. That would, if you've just graduated, that would be what separates you from the two. And then you might hear about kids from those other institutions that skip you. Just make sure, Uti, like, whether you come from whichever institution, if you've worked and invested in your craft, you are equally worthy of that opportunity where you do work that makes people go. That is brilliant. Thank you, Linda. I said a lot.
No, it was perfect. I think you did sort of cover this question. Let me know if you want to take it. It's how do you advise people who want to be able to work with big brands, since we know that unemployment is a problem? So why I'm saying we did tackle it is on, showing up, fixing your portfolio, being available, on the digital
Yeah.
platforms. This is one of the ways that you can get the opportunities, because there's always people who are looking for talent, and sometimes you won't get the opportunity if you're not available in these spaces. It's not always that a job advert will be put up. Sometimes the creatives, the directors, we actually see something and we call the person
Mm.
directly and say, I've got a project, or I need your support because of the type of work you have put on your platforms. I don't know if you want to just add on for Umtumbisi.
Mtobi is Mtobi, isn't. Yeah. So
Umtumbisi, yes.
yeah, for Mtobi, I think what, so there's this thing where we at times wait for work to be put out there instead of us making the work ourselves. So for instance, let's say you see a brand and you resonate with their brand, you look at their identity, for instance, and how you can take what they have and improve it. And that's what we call in the industry a proactive body of work. So let's say, for instance, you've seen that, which example can I take? This is the brand, but it depends on how you look at it. Let's say, for an example, you've seen, for an example, a Hollard ad, and you feel like you can improve this ad by maybe introducing a different element to the photography they use in their ads, or maybe you can
I'm sorry
improve.
about that.
Hmm?
I'm sorry about that. So I think because when a call comes in, it just connects straight to my laptop as well. It then interrupts everything.
No, I didn't even hear anything. So, as I was saying, kind of like work on proactive pieces. If you don't get like, if you do not get the vacancy post, work on a proactive piece for that brand and make sure that it's something that is a refresher for the art director of that company to see. Like if you want to work with, I mean, oh, what brand can I use? Whichever brand it is that's big, that, or in your perspective
Like
might
a
be
Ray
big.
coffee.
You
There's someone who
know?
did Ray coffee rebake. I was
Yeah.
like, I want to buy Ray coffee, and I
You
haven't
know?
been drinking coffee for
Yeah,
years. And when I saw those adverts and how they just changed up the look and feel of their
definitely.
packaging, and
Yeah.
it was just incredible. I was like, I want to buy that. It looked like a luxury brand, and yeah, it was beautiful. And I hope that the Recroftby team actually reached out to the gentleman, because it was beautiful. So things like that you can
Yeah.
literally do the what is a reactivation for a team. It's that already
Yeah.
puts you in a better position to showcase what you're capable of.
But also at times, let's also not sleep on opportunities that have a potential to grow. Like for instance, I've stumbled upon a whole lot of podcasts that I was just like, you know what? It takes one podcast, if you're a branding designer, right? It takes one designer to be like, for instance, let's say you reach out to a Penuel or DJ Spoo. You're just like, hey, DJ Spoo, can I rebrand your podcast? That's your big
Mm.
break, because every time when a person sees that logo, they know what you've done the logo. I remember a friend of mine slash old classmate, Doctor, had redone the illustration on Podcast and Chill. So it can either be a proactive piece, but like what I'm saying in essence is the company or whomever doesn't need to always kind of like come to you to offer you the opportunity. You can go to them and be like, hey guys, this is what I'm capable of. So that they can also kind of like be like, hey, yeah, we see this guy. So be proactive, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Especially with brands and companies that align to your
Yeah.
values and where you want to see yourselves. Thank you so much. Sipo, it's been a long evening and an incredible conversation. The team appreciates you. Thank you as always. Mandis has been here, Yolanda,
Thank you, Mandisa.
Sheila, Tobi's actually, I think we pronounced, oh, I pronounced your
Yeah.
name wrong. Thank you so much for your comments and joining us this evening. Team, you've been amazing. Rutendo, thank you for being here. It will be another date very soon, and luckily for you, we're going to still be talking about brands, brand collaborations. It is the requests that are coming from you, so we're going to try our best to live up to some of those conversations that you would love to have.
Ah,
Ndase, a good evening to you. Bye bye.
it was so good.